Let's go ahead. We're going to take a look at another way in which we're able to modify JSPs. So I'm going to collapse a couple of these windows here, close the rest of the tabs that I have, just to be neat so we have a clean space, clean environment to work with. So the way that we're going to be creating, or what we're going to be creating, is going to be called a portlet filter. Right, so we had our discussion about portlet filters a little bit ago. Let's go ahead and implement a portlet filter. So let's head over and click on File up here at the top left, selecting New, followed by a Liferay module project. Once we have the wizard pop up, we're going to be calling this customized JSP portlet filter. Now, a couple different ways we can approach this. Generally speaking, if we need a sort of default template, we're going to be selecting API. If we're going to be creating a component, most of the time we're going to be selecting service. So to make this a little bit easier on us, I'm going to be selecting service for the template. So I'm going to click on the project template name dropdown, and we're going to be looking for service. So selecting service here, and then go ahead and click next. So we're going to be creating a component. Let's start off by naming the component. We're going to be calling this the blogs render filter. We have to put this in a specific package. So this is going to be over in the Liferay training, customize, customize, there we go, JSP portlet filter. Okay. And then we need to select a service name. So this is going to be the interface that we're going to be implementing. So go ahead and click on the browse button. I'm going to use the start dot to hopefully get these the specific interface. And this is going to be a render filter, but we see that it doesn't show up. Maybe I mistyped that. If not, if we knew the fully qualified named, we could type that out. So in this case, it's going to be javax.portlet.filter.render filter. Okay. So this is going to be the whole thing. We see it doesn't show up, and that's okay. Go ahead and cut, and then we'll cancel out. And the service name here, I'm going to go ahead and paste what we cut. So javax.portlet.filter.render filter. And then from here, let's go ahead and click finish. So we'll go ahead and let the module project finish its creation process. Right, so almost done, almost done. I'll expand out the modules folder, and we have our customized JSP portlet filter. Right, so there's a couple of errors here that we're going to have to resolve. So let's go ahead and take a look at the errors that we have. So let's head over to the source main Java, into the package that we created, followed by the blogs render filter. So the first error here is we do not have this specific dependency, and we see that it's coming from the Portlet API. And so simple shortcut, if you take your mouse cursor and hover over the import statement or the error, you see add module dependency Portlet API. Right, so we went ahead and added it. Right, let's go ahead, and we still need to do a little bit of refining here. So I'm going to head over to my build.gradle, and we see that it's out of sync. So let's go ahead and do our Gradle refresh. And it looks like it did it for me. So no issues there. So let's do that Gradle refresh one more time, using Control F5 in my case, and we're just waiting for the project to finish refreshing and keeping our eyes out down at the bottom right. We see there's still an error on that specific on the specific import. I'm going to try to bring in the 3.0 and then go through the Gradle refresh once again. So keeping our eyes out at the bottom right and waiting for the percent to reach 100. And then once we head back, we'll see the render filter takes care of itself. Again, this is because the current Liferay Developer Studio that we're working with doesn't include the most up-to-date dependencies that we need to work with. And so throughout our various exercises, we will have to tweak them a little bit. So one difference here, instead of registering our component as a render filter, we're going to register it as a portlet filter here. Okay, so we resolved our dependencies here, and we have our component annotation up here at the top. Now we're going to be registering our service as a portlet filter instead of a render filter. So bringing in the portlet filter, we'll go ahead and use Control-Shift-O to bring in the javax.portlet.filter.portlet filter. Okay, so bringing in our portlet filter here. Now we also need to specify which portlet are we specifically modifying. And so here within the properties, we still have this to do here, and we're going to be specifying the portlet that we're going to be modifying or listening to. So this portlet filter is going to be listening to a specific portlet, and it's going to be the blogs portlet. And so the name of the blogs portlet is defined in a class called portlet keys dot, and then we're going to select blogs here. So just keep that in mind. A large amount of Liferay portlets, or at least their names, are defined within the class called portlet keys. So no semicolon there. That's my fault. All right, from here, we need to implement a couple of methods. So moving our mouse cursor over the blogs render filter, we're going to go ahead and add some unimplemented methods here. All right, so I'm going to take another preemptive step here. I'm going to head back over to the build.gradle, and I know that most of the time if I'm dealing with the portlet API, I'm also going to have to deal with the servlet API. So I'm going to be a little bit preemptive here and add the servlet API as a dependency. So we'll change the one above us as well. So compile only. This is going to be a compile time dependency only. Right? The dependency that I'm going to be grabbing is going to be the servlet API. Its name is going to be servlet javax dot servlet API. Okay, and then the version number, right, is going to be 3.0.1. Let's go ahead and try to add one more here. Okay, and then this is going to be the Java standard tag library. Right, it has the same name here. Need the comma here. Name is the same, Java standard tag library. Okay, and then the version number is going to be 1.2. I'll go ahead and refresh this. Right, we'll watch it at the bottom right hand corner. All right, and I might need to add one more here. Let's try one more. Then I'm going to be adding dependency from Liferay. Okay, Liferay util taglib. Okay, version 2.0.0. Okay. Gradle refresh one more time using Control F5. So heading back over to the render filter class for the blog's portlet or the blog's application, we're going to go ahead and implement the do filter. All right, so implementing the do filter, we're going to start off by creating an object from the class render response wrapper. Okay, our reference object name here, render response wrapper, right? New string response wrapper, right? And then we're going to be passing in the render response object here. Right, I'm going to use Control-Shift-O. Right, it resolves one of my errors, but not the other. Right, so this may or may not be an issue here. I'll leave that alone for the time being, and we'll take care of this a little bit later. Okay. So using our filter chain object up here, calling the method doFilter. All right, and we're going to be passing two objects. This is going to be, and let me double check here. It should be the render request object and then this render response wrapper. Okay, so doFilter render request object here, and then render response object here. Okay. All right, so far so good. And then let's create a string called text, render response wrapper to string. Okay. All right, so let's do a check on the text. Right, so the portlet filter is going to be listening specifically for something to intercept. In this case, we're going to be grabbing a string, and then we're going to do a check on that string. So making sure that the text here is not null. All right, string interesting text, we'll call it. All right, is equal to, and then this is going to be injecting this into the JSP itself. Field form control, and then double quotes here. Okay. All right, looks good there. All right. Int index is up next. Okay, so text last index of. Right, and then this is going to be coming from the string interesting text, semicolon, and I know this has to be equal right there. Okay, let's do a check on the index here. So nested if statement here. So if the index is greater than or equal to 0, all right, have a new string here called new text 1 is equal to the text of the substring, and then two parameters here from the beginning of the text to the very end. Okay, so we're going to be essentially, right, grabbing some text from our render response wrapper object, converting it to a string. We do a check on it to make sure that it is not null. We're then going to have a string called interesting text. The value of it is input class field form control. Right? We're then going to get the index of that text object, right? And then for the new string here, assuming that the index is greater than 0, right, our substring here with the text is going to be essentially the text object here. Okay, so we have our new string there. It's going to be the original, more or less. Let me not forget semicolons here. Okay, we're going to create another string here, new text2, and right, this is going to be pretty lengthy here. So this is the modification that we're going to be adding to our JSP. So string response wrapper captures the output of the blog's portlet before. Right, this is kind of getting lengthy here, so we can drop this down here. Right, before it gets written to the output string. So before it's actually rendered. Okay, right, this gives us the chance to manipulate, right, the output before sending it down the filter chain. Okay, closing p tag here. Okay, /n. So let me make sure I got my slashes there correctly. Semicolon at the end, just to make sure that everything there is okay. All right, let's get another string in the mix. String new text. New text3 equals text substring index. Okay, let's bump this down, make this neat. Okay, and then string new text. All right, it's equal to each one of these ones. So new text 1, new text 2, and new text 3. Right, response object dot get writer. Right, we're going to write that new text. All right. So a good amount of code here. Okay, so we're going to be creating this class up here, the string response wrapper. So we're going to be intercepting either the request or the response. In this case, we have our choice. In either case, though, whether request or response, we're able to manipulate either object before it's going to be sent back to the application. In this case, the blog's portlet. From there, right, we have our text, going to grab from the render response wrapper. And then assuming that there is something in the text, this is our indicator saying, yeah, there's something that's going to be rendered. We then manipulate it, add some text that we want to add, and then send it off within the response object to be written within the JSP. Now let's take a look at this string response wrapper object, and we're going to be creating a new class so that this is actually implemented. All right, so we're going to make it a little bit easy, right? We're going to be adding this as a inner class. Okay, so we can do this. Let's do it below the init method here. So below the init method, we're going to make an inner class. So private class string response wrapper. And this is going to be extends the render response wrapper. All right. Okay, so we just need to implement this guy here. So let's create the constructor. So public string response wrapper. Okay, using the render response object. Right, we'll call that object response. Okay. All right. Super response. All right. Couple of things we're going to do in here. we're going to have a string writer. That's going to be from the string writer class. String writer class. Okay, and we're also going to have a print writer. This is going to be from the print writer class. Print writer. Okay, and then this is going to be coming from string writer. Okay, now let's see here. Control-Shift-O, bringing in our necessary imports. So a couple more methods here within our inner class for the string and the print writer. So print writer class. Okay, we're going to have this getWriter method. And something goes wrong, let's throw in an exception. Right, and then we'll go ahead and return the print writer. Okay. One more here. Public string to string. Okay, return string writer to string. Okay. And then to make this all work, right, we need those objects. Private print writer, right, underscore print writer for the object. One more here. And then this is for the string writer. Okay. And then string writer. So let's change this name. It's not printer writer, just print writer. There we go. All right. Should be the method there. There we go. All right. So doing a little bit of fancy stuff here. Right? We could have used the render response wrapper instead, but just kind of taking creative liberties here. All right, so far, no additional errors. We should be all right. So let's go ahead and test this out. We'll head over and deploy our customized JSP portlet filter. So customized JSP portlet filter, head over to build, followed by deploy. And then let's take a look to see if we can get this working first. All right, so it looks like it deployed and it has started. Okay, so let's head over to the UI here. And now that we're here in the UI, we're going to go and deploy or add the blogs portlet onto our page. All right, so let's head up to the plus button up at the top right after we head over to our instance of Liferay. So instance of Liferay, it's been a while, so I'll go ahead and sign back in. Okay, so I'll click sign in, signing back in. All right, plus button up here at the top right. I'll type blogs here and then adding the blogs application. And we'll go ahead and let it render. You should see the following text on the blogs application.